Hello, everyone, this is part 3. Are you ready to watch? Enjoy this show. Please support me. I'm back, and I think it's time for another update. I've been sitting with my feelings, trying to figure out what comes next, and honestly, things are still complicated, but there's a shift. I feel like I'm finally starting to move forward, not completely, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. After my meeting with Melissa at the cafe, I couldn't help but feel this mix of relief and sadness. The relief came from finally having the courage to make a decision. I had told her it was over, and for the first time, I meant it. But the sadness came from the weight of everything we'd lost, the dreams, the future we'd planned. It wasn't easy to let go, even if I knew it was the right thing to do. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the walls. I couldn't help but scroll through social media again. I know, it's unhealthy, but I couldn't stop myself. There was this awful curiosity in me, and I had to see what Melissa was posting. I guess I thought it would somehow make me feel better, like seeing her struggle or maybe even regret her decisions would make me feel vindicated. But what I saw, it did the opposite. She was out at some bar, smiling with Chris. They were posing for pictures, and in every one, she looked like she was living her best life. It stung, and I had to stop myself from texting her something bitter. The thing is, Melissa never took accountability for anything. It was like she was moving on without a care, leaving me behind to pick up the pieces. I closed my phone, took a deep breath, and tried to focus on the present. I realized I needed to stop looking at her life. I needed to focus on my own healing. The first step I took was getting out of the apartment. I signed up for a new gym, something I'd been meaning to do for a while, and started going regularly. I hadn't worked out seriously in years, but the physical exertion was helping. It gave me something to focus on, something that wasn't tangled up in memories of her. Plus, the endorphins did wonders for my mood. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. Then, I made the decision to cut her out of my life completely. I unfollowed her on everything. I blocked her number. It felt like ripping off a band-aid, but it was necessary. I had to stop letting her messages and posts affect me. I didn't need her permission to heal. It was time for me to reclaim my own space. I spent the next few weeks reconnecting with myself. I spent more time with friends, doing things that made me laugh. I even took a weekend trip to the mountains by myself, something I had never done before. It was strange to be alone in a beautiful place, but it gave me time to think, time to process everything without distractions. During that trip, I did a lot of soul-searching. I thought about what I wanted next. I realized that the person I had been before Melissa and I started falling apart was someone I had almost forgotten. I used to be independent, confident, and focused on my own goals. Somewhere along the way, I'd gotten so caught up in trying to be the perfect partner that I lost touch with who I was. I wasn't there yet, but I was starting to feel like I could be whole again. I wasn't going to let Melissa's choices define me. I could rebuild my life without her. And then, just as I was getting into a rhythm, I got a message from one of my old friends, Sean, the guy who'd been the first to tell me about Melissa's affair. He wanted to meet up, so we set a time to grab a drink. When we met, he told me something I didn't expect. He said, "James, I know you're angry, but I have to be honest. Melissa was with Chris before you two even started fighting. She was already emotionally checked out, and I think she just kept coming back because she didn't want to face the truth. You deserve so much more than that, man." At first, it felt like a punch to the gut. But then, it made sense. Melissa had been emotionally detached from me for a long time, even when she was telling me everything was fine. She had checked out long before I caught her. And that made it hurt more, but also less, in a way. I wasn't crazy. It wasn't something I did wrong. It wasn't just the affair, it was the years of neglect. So, that was the reality I had to face. But instead of breaking me, it freed me. I took another step forward that night. I knew now I wasn't just healing from the affair, I was healing from everything she had taken from me. I wasn't broken anymore. I was moving on. I'd been sitting on this update for a while because I didn't want to jinx anything. but I feel like I'm finally in a place where I can talk about what's been going on. It's been a journey, and I'm far from perfect, but I'm genuinely starting to feel like I'm rebuilding not just my life, but also myself. After Sean's conversation, things started to shift in my mind. Melissa had checked out long before the affair. She had already emotionally disconnected, and that realization made everything make more sense. It was a huge weight off my chest because I finally understood that this wasn't about me. It was about her own issues, her inability to communicate, and her selfishness. I spent a lot of time thinking about who I was before Melissa. I remembered what it was like to be single and free, before I allowed someone else's actions to control my emotions. I started to rediscover my hobbies and passions, things I'd let slip over the years. I reconnected with old friends, went on weekend trips, and started taking care of my physical and mental health in ways I hadn't for a while. One of the most surprising things I did was start journaling. I'm not sure why I didn't think of it before, but writing out my thoughts helped me process everything. I'd write about my anger, my sadness, and the moments where I felt proud of myself for making it through the hardest parts. I didn't have to be strong all the time. I let myself feel whatever I felt in that moment, and that was powerful. It wasn't easy, though. There were days when I'd look at my phone and feel the urge to reach out to Melissa. It wasn't because I wanted her back, it was more out of habit, I guess. I'd see something that reminded me of her, or I'd be in a situation where I thought she'd be the one to understand. But then, I'd remember why I left in the first place. The lies, the manipulation, the emotional distance. I didn't want that life anymore. One of the hardest moments came when I ran into her at the grocery store. It was completely unexpected. I was picking up some fruit, and I turned around, and there she was. She looked different. Her hair was a little longer, and she was dressed more casually than I remembered. But what struck me most was the look on her face. It was a mix of regret and desperation, and for a moment, I almost felt bad for her. She was the one who had cheated, but there she was, looking lost, like she wasn't sure where her life had gone. She came over to me, and the first thing she said was, "I've been thinking about you a lot, James. I miss you." I could have gotten angry. I could have yelled at her, told her how much she hurt me. But I didn't. I just took a deep breath and said, "Melissa, I've moved on. I don't have anything to say to you anymore." Her face fell, and I could see she was about to start with the excuses again, but I cut her off. "I've healed. You don't get to come back into my life just because things aren't going the way you thought they would. You made your choices. Now, I have to make mine." And with that, I turned and walked away. It wasn't a grand speech or some moment of final closure, but it was enough. It felt like I was finally letting go of the last remnants of her hold on me. In the weeks that followed, I kept focusing on myself. I took on new projects at work, started learning a new language, Spanish, to be exact, why not, and even joined a book club. I was rediscovering who I was, and it felt good. I felt confident, not because I was getting over her, but because I was learning to be whole again, without needing her validation or approval. I started dating again too. Nothing serious, just casual dates with people who didn't bring baggage. It was strange at first, and I definitely had my moments of doubt, but overall, I was enjoying the idea of being with someone who was present, who valued me from the start. I can't lie and say I don't still think about Melissa from time to time. There are moments where I wonder what could have been, or I feel a wave of sadness about what we lost. But then I remind myself of all the things she took from me, my trust, my sense of security, my peace. And I don't miss that at all. I've learned so much about myself through all of this. Mostly, I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I learned that healing doesn't have to be a linear process, and there's no shame in taking time to figure things out. And more than anything, I've learned that I deserve someone who values me and who isn't going to treat me like an afterthought. So, to anyone going through something similar, take your time. It's okay to grieve, it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to be confused. But remember, the end of a relationship doesn't define you. What matters is how you move forward, how you choose to grow from it. I'm still learning, but I'm proud of where I am. Thank you for watching. I ask you to help me. Subscribe to my channel, put likes and do not forget to comment. Thank you. See you in another video.